Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society, bringing you our nightly update. And before I get started here tonight, a special happy birthday to a little guy that watches our live streams, Mr. Cash. I hope you have a wonderful birthday. I heard your mama was taking you out to the beach, so you have a good time, young man. All right, we do have a lot to unpack here today. Jerry slipped a little bit further to the west. We've got warnings, and we're going to get real up close and personal here with Jerry as well. We now have Tropical Storm Raymond out here into the Eastern Pacific, and then we also have Tropical Storm Priscilla. And we lost Octave, but I'm going to show you the satellite on that. It's kind of interesting there. I do have a zoomed in look of Octave, and you see it for just a moment. And watch where that one goes. So, all right, I'm going to mention this. This is Invest 96L. Give me a break. Yes, it has a 10% chance of development. And the whole reason is the temperature gradient from the surface all the way up into the upper levels. But no, I don't think so. But we also still have Tropical Storm Jerry. Thankfully, it is still an asymmetrical storm. As you can see here with the mesoscale loop, as the sun was going down, you can see the center of the circulation out front of the overall convective mass. The overall convection sits to the south and to the southeast and to the eastern side of Tropical Storm Jerry. Taking a look, well, we got hit with an ad there. And let's see if we can't get rid of all these little things. I don't know how. No, I want to get rid of it. Stop seeing this ad. I'm not interested. Get it out of the way. Damn it. Thank you. All right. So, as we could see here, this is from the Barbados Meteorological Service. What we have here is a composite of all of the radars across the Caribbean. As you can see, we've got that large convective mass, but we've got kind of a blank spot up here at this time where we get a couple frames, but not a lot. From, I believe it is Dominica that we get that extra radar from, or Guadeloupe, one of the two. But we're not really able to see what's going on up here. But there is a lot of rain that is to the south of this. It is currently raining in Barbados on this inflow from Jerry. So as Jerry continues to move northward, this heavy rainfall is going to shift off to our left. That means even though folks might not be under the tropical storm watch or warning, there's going to be quite a bit of rainfall across the Lesser Antilles going through the day tomorrow and the overnight hours. Now, the reason that I'm pulling up Earth Null here this evening is to show everybody we're going to put our trusty green circle on the surface. We're now 5,000 feet up above sea level. Now we're 2 miles above sea level at about 10,000 feet. And as you can see, the center of circulation is not aligned with our circle. And if we come up even higher to about 18,000 feet, 3.5 miles up, as you can see where our mid-level circulation is located, that's exactly where we see all of this shower and thunderstorm activity. And it even is verified here on radar as well. So it is definitely an asymmetrical system. There's no question about it. And if you guys want, I was showing my son this before we got into the live. I'm going to put, this is Invest 96L. And I'm going to jump to the temperatures. And if you'll note right here, 66.2 degrees. If I start coming up into the atmosphere, we're at 57.1. We're about a mile up. Watch, this is why they've got a 1010 on it. 34 degrees at 2 miles up. So we're losing temperature really quick as we go up into the atmosphere. 8.3 degrees at 3 miles up. 3.5 miles. And then when we get to the 6 mile, negative 60. So this is what is the basis of this low pressure and giving it a 10% chance there. Now, I will deal with the nor'easter and the coastal low here in a second. I have pulled stuff up for that, but we're definitely going to get into Jerry here first. So, as of the 5 p.m. advisory, we are located at 17.3 north, 60.6 west, about 175 miles east-southeast of the northern Leeward Islands. Maximum sustained winds of 65 miles an hour, which could be conservative, and its current movement is west-northwest at 18 miles an hour. Minimum central pressure of 1,001 millibars. We currently have tropical storm warnings in effect for Barbuda and Anguilla, St. Barthélemy and St. Martin, Saint Martin, and Guadeloupe and the adjacent islands. We have a tropical storm watch in effect for Antigua, St. Kitts, Nevis, and Montserrat, Saba, and Eustis, St. Eustis. I do not know how to pronounce that one. I will figure it out. Interest elsewhere in the northern Leeward Islands and the British and U.S. Virgin Islands should monitor the progress of Jerry. Now, getting down to our hazards affecting land. Wind. Tropical storm conditions are expected in the warned areas and possible in the watch areas. Our rainfall. 4 to 6 inches are expected across the island of Barbuda. Elsewhere, across the Leeward and Virgin Islands, 2 to 4 inches of rain are expected. This rainfall brings the risk of flash flooding, especially in urban areas and in steep terrain. For portions of Puerto Rico, moisture associated with Jerry combined with local orographic effects may result in up to 2 to 4 inches of rain, with isolated 6 inches possible. And for our surf, the Atlantic facing beaches, and with the development of the nor'easter this weekend and what we're going to see with Jerry, please stay out of the water. Give it a couple days, and we should make it a little bit easier on some of these beaches. Right now, the waters are quite churned up. If we look at the forecast track here this evening, I've got the interactive map. I'll zoom out to show everybody where we're at. Bermuda is up here, still well removed from the cone of uncertainty. But if we zoom in down here, our light green colors represent, our brightest green colors represent our 50 knot or 58 mile an hour winds. That is its overall wind field. As you can see, the winds are definitely offset to the eastern side. If we look at the darker green color, this is representative of our tropical storm force wind field. And as you can see, we zoom in, it's not very far off of the island of Barbuda. That is this upper island right here. So it's going to be close. The cone is only but maybe about 20 miles, 18 miles off the shore there. Very, very close. So folks, please, make preparations for impacts. As you can see here, I kind of understand why Antigua doesn't have a warning. It just makes things look funny with Guadeloupe, Barbuda, and then getting up here towards Anguilla, Saint Martin, and Saint Barthélemy, as those also being in warnings. Give me just 1 second, folks. I gotta let the cat out. Go on. Go on. exit. All right, sorry about that. Okay, now if we look at the spaghetti plots, we can see the majority of the guidance really has this turning to the north and then eventually veering off to the north northeast and then to the northeast and then east northeast. One thing that I would like to point out, not necessarily, there's a lot of uncertainty, especially when we get to about day 4, day 5 with this track out here. Folks in the Azores, just because we've got the HCCA and the TVCN that are getting remotely close to you guys out here, that is our consensus models. And just keep an eye on this one, if you would please. There's no guarantee. But things are, a little on the funny side with this storm, just due to its asymmetry. It may not even be much of anything by the time, if it ever gets to you. So what I have here now, we're going to look at the trends as far as what we've seen with Jerry. And if you'll note, there has been a miss with this X right here. And we're going to see that in a lot of these models. This particular X, the way you read this is the previous X is where it's located. Then you follow the track. Now, the track itself, the location was offset to the left. So the model missed and the storm moved a little bit more west than its regular west-northwest track. This is what's been the result of our upgrade from our watches to warnings for some of these locations. And earlier we had some very concerning wind speeds for the island of Barbuda. So now, if we look at the euro, again, this X, notice, it missed. We compare it with the UK Met, again, it missed. So this is the reason that we see it, is because the models didn't really pick up on this as far as the globals are concerned. If we come here to the H-Wharf, it didn't miss a lot. All right, our hurricane-specific models didn't really miss by much at all. Halves, it missed a little bit, but not by a lot. So it's a very interesting, and Halves B has absolutely lost its mind. I can tell you, I ran the models on it when I looked at it earlier, and I was like, wait a minute here. It completely loses sight of it on the Halves model. Halves A still keeps it, as you can see here, but Halves B completely loses track of it and sense of it. And Halves A, it's kind of all over the place. It's really been struggling with Jerry. If we take a look at coamps, kind of a little bit of a miss, but not off that much for both of them. It's been a struggle for the models with Jerry, just due to its asymmetrical nature. If we look at our consensus, now this is our HCCA. As you can see here, we're starting to get a little bit of a view of the Azores right there. Intensity-wise, if we take it all the way out to its furthest point, still potentially looking at 60 knots. So that would be a strong tropical storm at that point. If we compare that with the TVCN, a little bit faster and a little bit further to the north, comes real close to the extreme western portion of the Azores there. Keeps it still offshore, and we can watch that in more of a nowcast format there for Antigua and Barbuda and those folks up there in the northern leewards. Keeps it away from Bermuda. And then if we look at its intensity, maybe getting it up to a category 1 and then still keeping it as a moderate or decently strong tropical storm. the forecast track from the National Hurricane Center. As you could see, even they kind of missed it a little bit with this X. All right, the storm did things, and it's always hard to track a system that is not necessarily vertically aligned because the mid level circulation can act like a drag on the low level circulation, and that seems to be what has happened. Is that I'll try to draw it out. So if you have your low level here and your mid level back behind it like this, and they're both heading kind of in the same direction, but things are rotating counterclockwise. And sometimes you can get this to not necessarily rotate back like this. That's not necessarily the case, but as this kind of rolls in, this kind of drifts off this way, and it's a little bit of a drag because that shear is just not allowing it to get vertically stacked. Key messages. We've already gone over this. Our heavy rainfall, though, is critical for the Leeward Islands, British Virgin Islands, U.S. Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico through Friday. It could result in flash flooding. So please, folks, take precautions. Do not drive through flooded roadways, and especially over areas with heavy moving water. Our rainfall forecast, as you can see, Barbuda is stuck in this yellow, 4 to 6 inches, with maybe locally higher amounts, and then all the way down getting into Dominica, Guadeloupe, Montserrat, Antigua, all the way up even to the eastern and southern portions of Puerto Rico, 2 to 4 inches with locally higher amounts. And then Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines getting down towards Trinidad, Tobago, and Barbados. You guys are looking at 1 to 2 inches with locally higher amounts. If we look at our forecast discussion, this is, yes, we do have some things that we could go over. But the most important part of this is strengthening in the short term seems unlikely given Jerry's poor initial structure. However, after the storm passes the northern Leeward Islands, the vertical wind shear could decrease some while Jerry remains over warm water and in a moist air mass. Therefore, slow strengthening is predicted from late Friday through Sunday. The opportunity for strengthening will likely end early next week when the system moves into stronger shear and over cooler waters. The NHC forecast has been nudged downward due to a combination of the storm's poor initial structure and latest guidance. And as you can see here, still forecasted getting it to hurricane intensity around 48 hours and then maintaining that hurricane intensity through the forecast period. Going forward here, the most likely arrival time of tropical storm force winds are obviously, when we look at our forecast track here, they're not far offshore. All right, so we're not really looking at this graphic. All preparations should have been completed and or rushed to immediate completion for our warned areas. Don't think the folks on Barbuda are really going to be wanting to get out there right now. But as we can see here, the most likely arrival time of tropical storm force winds for this primary advisory does have it here soon through the overnight hours and getting in towards Friday early morning hours for Anguilla and those folks up here a little further up the line, Saint Martin and Saint Barthélemy as well. These areas right here, you're looking at early in the morning during the overnight hours. So the conditions will continue to deteriorate until we get through tomorrow. Now, our tropical storm force wind speed probabilities, we have these in graphical form, but we also have these in text form. So right now, Bermuda, you are at an 18% chance of tropical storm force winds. St. Martin, we are looking at 10% chance of tropical storm force winds. Barbuda, this is where things get concerning. 67% chance of tropical storm force winds with a 20% chance of seeing these 50 knot winds. These 50 knot winds, or 58 miles an hour, that is my concern, because at that point, power outages become a little bit more likely at that point. I'm not saying that they would, but power outages would definitely be a thing at that time. Antigua, you are looking at a 16% chance of tropical storm force winds. If I have not mentioned your island, you are under a 10% chance of seeing sustained tropical storm force winds. That doesn't mean you're not going to see potentially tropical storm force gusts in some of those stronger thunderstorms, that could be rolling through the area. Now, we are going to discuss not only Jerry and its eventual forecast track, as you could see here, a lot of uncertainty when we get past this point right here on the Euro. As you can see, we've got a tight clustering right here, and then things become quite uncertain with the Azores out here. So this is one of the reasons why I am starting to recommend that the folks in the Azores just keep an eye on this. It could be heading in your general direction. Our coastal nor'easter. This is going to be very impactful for folks along and it could even go up further up the coastline, along the mid-Atlantic states, North Carolina, even getting down here as the storm is developing. There will be some significant impacts along the East Coast going through this weekend. I'm going to say it a million times. Don't get in the water this weekend, folks. Don't do it. If you're on the East Coast, you leave that alone. Today's not the day, and this weekend is not the weekend. Please stay out of the water. The rip currents are going to be just absolutely insane. Looking at the GEFS and that comparison, we could see Jerry coming up, moving out away from Bermuda here, and then headed towards potentially the Azores out here. So please, again, folks, just keep an eye on it. No guarantee. And then our coastal low. The thing about our coastal low is when we get out to, here we are, 30 hours, 72, 96, didn't really go very far, did it? 120, hasn't really moved that much. That's the problem. We are looking at multiple tide cycles with some significant onshore winds, with some heavy wind gusts across the eastern portions of the United States. And I'll show you here in just a second. If we look at the Euro AI, has got Jerry staying, maybe not as much as what we've seen with the other models. Still agreeing on this coastal nor'easter and then potentially hanging out, though this one has it over open water, as to where the Euro does have this in some of the ensemble members and even the GEFS actually making it to land and onshore as a non-tropical entity, which would be, that would be beneficial. It keeps it from attaining tropical characteristics, but you're bringing the core of the winds with it on the northern side. If we look at the Google DeepMind, now please keep in mind the Google DeepMind is only looking for tropical entities. All right, and as we run this forward, you don't see anything on the East Coast. Maybe a little bit of a blip out here later on in 7 days. But otherwise than that, maybe another little wave, not a lot of a percentage on that. Eastern Pacific getting, kind of interesting, which it has been. And then obviously down here into the southern Indian Ocean, if you guys are eyeing that on the right hand side of the screen. But we're looking at that little secondary wave. We may have to keep an eye on that one. Google DeepMind has performed excellent this year, and although we do not have very many lines, it's just enough to be like, okay, all right, we'll keep a watch on it as we go forward here. All right, now the winds. What I have here are wind gusts. Yellows represent our tropical storm force wind gusts. That is our 34 knots and above. All of these are in knots, not miles an hour. And we have the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. Now, as I run this forward, you will see that the coastal areas out here along the southeast, coastal Georgia, coastal South Carolina, south of Cape Hatteras in coastal North Carolina. Both models are agreeing with some very heavy winds offshore and potentially getting down here towards the Jacksonville area with tropical storm force gusts getting up into that range. As we roll this forward, you'll see that the wind field really begins to develop. And by the time that we get out here to the 72-hour mark, we are looking at some significant winds here on the GFS with the non-tropical low pressure over eastern North Carolina. Now, the Euro doesn't really have it as organized as what we've got it on the GFS yet. But as we roll this forward, look at the winds. All of these are onshore. The Euro's a little bit different, but all the way up, even getting into New England region. And even potentially, especially if this GFS verifies, some of these winds might get a little bit further inland. As you can see here, maybe even as far as eastern Pennsylvania. So we could see, if the GFS is the one that verifies, we could see some very, very heavy onshore winds, very, very heavy impacts. And if we take a look here with Earth Null, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I have run this out 72 hours, and this is off of the GFS solution, as noted right there. You can see these big time winds pushing everything onshore. It doesn't stop. All right, I just went back in time. I'm going to go forward in time. All the way up the coast. We'll come back again. This is all at the surface. But here's the thing. I'm going to now come up 5,000 feet above sea level. And I'm going to show you the winds up here. These winds are obviously a lot stronger. If we get shower and thunderstorm activity, some of these winds could be brought down to the surface. They won't be as strong, but we could see some significant wind gusts coming down from the lower levels of the atmosphere. As you can see, the 700 millibar level isn't that strong, but the 850, and on top of that, do you see where this compression line of some of these winds are? to where we get the winds coming up and then they turn real hard right here. We have this high pressure pushing air in like this, and it is creating what may turn out to be a very, very heavy train line of thunderstorms or just rain itself. That may set up over some very, very populated areas and could lead to some significant urban flash flooding, along with the fact that you've got these onshore winds pushing the water up against the coastline, not allowing the rivers, creeks, streams, and tributaries inland to drain out naturally to the ocean. That's what we call compound flooding. And I'm afraid that this nor'easter could be setting up in that general way. So we don't normally talk about non-tropical systems, but this one's got enough of an impact to folks here in the United States that it definitely needs to be addressed. All right, now we are going to jump back into the tropics and take a look at our quote-unquote seeds. This is our 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. We have the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. This is measuring areas of spin approximately 1 mile or 5,000 feet above the ocean surface. And if we look and we run this forward, we can see there's Jerry, there's our coastal low pressure right there. As you can see with the GFS is further inland. The Euro is a little offshore. That would be terrible. That's not going to help degrade and provide land friction to the surface circulation itself, and that is going to allow things to be a little bit stronger, as you can see represented here by the Euro compared to the GFS. Jerry, on the other hand, out here 4 days, churning, looking good on the GFS. The Euro, not so much. And if we run it forward to day 5, you can see Jerry gets strung out. We still have this low pressure area hanging very close and not going anywhere. The GFS wants to eject it. Now the Euro starts to get it away from the coast. Degrades it by day 6 and then pushes it out and along. Now, if we continue to run this forward, we will see that the GFS wants to spin up CAG, wants to spin up the potential of a tropical cyclone on the deterministic run. And as you can see, the Euro is not in agreement. We need congruence between the models to trust what the GFS is showing. Although the GFS is showing the potential for tropical cyclone activity in 7 days. But if you look how it starts, there is a little bit of energy associated with the Euro, but not, they're in agreement with the GFS. The GFS pulls this other nor'easter out. The Euro lags it behind for about a day, which then allows that trough to kind of dig down a little further, running into the shear. But then the GFS, if you'll note, still wants to develop it in the face of that shear. I've got a big time question with that, because we also have another developing low pressure here with the GFS, and that's not trying to get captured. So it really makes you question what we're looking at with the GFS. So when we look at those vorticities, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our humidity, see where the moisture is. On the top we have our 500 millibar level. On the bottom we have our 700 millibar level. 500 millibar level is approximately 3.5 miles above the ocean surface. The 700 millibar is approximately 2 miles above the ocean surface, or somewhere around 10,000 feet. Again, we have the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. Now, if we run these forward, we will see that that deep moisture associated with Jerry and our coastal nor'easter beginning to develop. You see this moisture inflow, even though Jerry is well removed here at the 48-hour mark from the islands, as you can see here. Jerry is getting strung out and quite a bit faster on the Euro, but it is this moisture that is still coming up towards the islands. You can see on the Euro, still a little bit of that moisture coming up, dry air starting to intrude in, dry air starting to intrude in. So there's going to be a little bit of time lingering for some of that moisture to be pulled up from the Caribbean as it is heading towards Jerry, while Jerry is north of the island chain. Now, as far as our nor'easter and points beyond, if we look, that nor'easter is really helping to implement quite a bit of a frontal boundary and dry air. I know that the folks in southern Florida are really, really looking forward to this as it moves in, and then maybe a little bit of a backdoor cold front. And that would be amazing if we could get that. And if we run it all the way out to hour 240, as we could see, quite a bit of dry air. And even if the GFS were to try to spin something up down there, as you could see, there is a great deal of dry air that would be in its way. And it certainly wouldn't like the environment that it would be in. So let's compare all of those with our wind shear. Again, Euro on the left, GFS on the right. This is representative of the winds between 200 millibars and 850 millibars. So about 5,000 feet all the way up to about 40,000 feet. And as we run this forward, you will see that our developing low pressure there on the East Coast, it's there, but this is the reason why it is not anticipated to be tropical in nature. It is going to be in a very sheared environment, which is going to lead to storm asymmetry, meaning that the down shear side of the circulation for the nor'easter will be on the northern side, which is the same side that your onshore wind flow will be. So it is anticipated that there is going to be some very, very, very inclement weather to the north of the low pressure center. As we continue to run this forward, as you can see, the Euro basically eats that thing up and then helps maybe develop something else out there. It is at about this point in time to where we could see maybe a little bit of an upper level low moving through, and then it is this area of high pressure that we are looking at, that is where we get that seed to sit under where the GFS is. Now, that would be absolutely, nightmare fuel. You never want to see a Central American gyre system up underneath a anticyclone, an upper level anticyclone. You do not want to see that. But the Euro obviously doesn't agree. And then if you look at where the GFS is, it's almost like this system develops its own environment due to its intensity. All right, so if it's not there, which it forms in the face of some pretty heavy shear, but if it's not there, that anticyclone is likely not to be that dominant, and we could see a decent amount of shear still developing there. So all in all, one of the reasons that we've got a lot of this activity in our basin right now, especially even with the Eastern Pacific, which we'll get to that here in a moment. We've got threats out there as well. We've got a positive MJO phase currently on top of us. and it is forecast to kind of stay and kind of stick around in the region. And as you can see from the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook, this was released last Tuesday, or this past Tuesday. We've got week 2 here on the top, week 3 on the bottom, with the potential of seeing more tropical cyclone activity. So, again, there's nothing imminent, but it's just going to require watching. And it, regardless, will be live every single night up until at least Halloween. So now I am going to jump over to our Eastern Pacific, and we are going to discuss Tropical Storm Priscilla. And then we will discuss Raymond, and we'll catch in with Octave. I didn't pull up any of its particulars. I just left the satellite up. So Priscilla, this is going to be a problem for folks in the desert Southwest. Currently, we're located at 24.4 north, 114.9 west. Maximum sustained winds 45 miles an hour, moving north-northwest at 8 miles an hour, and a minimum central pressure of 996 millibars. There are no coastal watches or warnings in effect, but hazards affecting land, that's a whole different ballgame. As Priscilla moves off the west coast of Baja California, up to an inch of rain is expected across the Baja California Peninsula. For the southwestern United States, 2 to 4 inches of rain, with local storm total maxima to 6 inches are expected across portions of central and northern Arizona, southern Utah, and southwest Colorado through Saturday. Flash flooding is likely in portions of central Arizona, with scattered areas of flash flooding expected across the remainder of Arizona, southern Utah, southwest Colorado, and far northwestern New Mexico. And as far as the surf is concerned, if you are not an experienced surfer, stay out of the water. I know that there are quite a few out there. All right. Looking at the winds. Winds are not the problem with this. That's not the problem at all. The forecast track, as you can see, forecast to come up, move in, and head towards the southwestern U.S. We have our key messages. We've already kind of read our hazards affecting land, and if you see in one of them graphics, here we go. Rainfall. We are looking at potentially 2 to 4 inches. This is the National Weather Service, or the Weather Prediction Service graphic provided by the National Hurricane Center. We've got it a little bit different. What we have here is a zoom in on the desert Southwest in the Southwest U.S. We've got the Weather Prediction Center on the left, and we have the NOAA blend of models on the right. For comparison, the Weather Prediction Center has some very, very heavy concerns, at least for me, getting into this region here. And then this is getting a little on the sneaky side, because if you look, that is the highest rainfall that we have on the entire screen. The maximum is 7.25 inches in areas around Durango, Colorado, and the peaks in and around there. That's going to cause flooding. That certainly is. Now, I've got this out 7 days. You may ask, well, that storm's coming in, like our flood potential over the next 3 days are associated here. And yes, we do. If we run it forward, as you can see, there is another potential round of rain. And that is from Raymond. This is our first 72 hours, but as you can see, we go one more day, and that is southern parts of southeastern parts of Arizona and southwestern parts of New Mexico. And then still going off to the north and to the east, out here into parts of New Mexico. This is day 5. look what happens when we get towards, like we're getting in here. Look at the graphic on the left. As we get into day 6, getting into day 5, then look right there, day 6, day 7. Looks like from 6 to 7, we're not getting that much, but definitely 5 to 6, we're looking at maybe even more rain for southwestern Colorado there. Uh-oh. I'll be damned. It's up to 40% on Invest 96L. Haha. We got us a highlighter. Let's see. Updated. Showers and thunderstorms have become better organized today in association with a gale force area of low pressure located several hundred miles to the northwest of the Azores. If this development trend continues, a subtropical or tropical storm could form as soon as tonight while the system moves slowly northwestward. Over the weekend, this system is expected to move over even cooler waters, ending its chances of further development. Wow. Let's go check satellite. Where are we at? It's way up here. It's this. It's that. Let's see. Hold on. I might be able to get a satellite on that. Yeah. As you can see, these it's the bursting of the thunderstorm activity near the core. Damn, that's probably gonna pull one. That if they were to name this would be tropical. This is not subtropical. You've got convection on basically all sides around the center of circulation, and it is sitting in some very, very cool waters. I mean, you look. This is 44 degrees north. Wow. Appreciate that, James. Thank you for the heads up there, Bubba. All right, getting into the forecasters discussion. It is pretty well set in stone that Priscilla is going to, its remnant moisture associated with Priscilla remains the primary hazard with this system. So it's the primary hazard for this system isn't even to Mexico. It's got to move through the Baja Peninsula to get to the southwestern United States. But when it does, we're looking at likely areas of flooding. This area here, Thursday through Friday morning, right there. We're getting through Friday through Saturday morning here on day 2, where we've got our moderate, at least a 40% chance of flash flooding in this red shaded area. So anybody in this, flooding is likely to occur, especially in areas of burn scars and this desert soil. It's hydrophobic. It's not going to absorb water quickly at all. These quick dumping thunderstorms are going to be a problem. No doubt about it. And then Saturday morning through Sunday morning, this particular graphic here. So we're going to keep at least a slight risk of flash flooding all throughout the desert Southwest, at least over the next 3 days. And as we saw with the Weather Prediction Center's forecast back here, we could see that extend maybe all the way to day 6. Big problems. And the reason, okay, now, let's take a look at Octave before we jump over to Raymond. There's Octave right there. And it's a little swirl, tiny little thing. And as you can see, it has no shower and thunderstorm activity to it whatsoever. It is a naked swirl running around. And it's on its way to Raymond, which right at the very end of the screen, you could see the low pressure center right there. So What's going to happen? I mean, this has no, no strength to it, no intensity to it. It's just a naked swirl. So they did issue it post-tropical cyclone. But now, speaking of Raymond, Raymond's got its own set of problems. Currently, Raymond is located at 16.5 north, 101.7 west. I'm not even going to try to pronounce these. It has a maximum sustained winds of 45 miles an hour, moving west northwest at 15 miles an hour, and then a minimum central pressure of 1,002 millibars. We have tropical storm warnings in effect, and they are in effect for those areas right there. I think that's Ziwaneteo, I believe, but I'm sure I butchered it. And then the other one, I'm not even going to try. So, interest in the southern Baja California Peninsula. Need to keep an eye on this. Hazards affecting land. Tropical storm conditions are expected within the warned area tonight through Friday. Rainfall. We are expecting 2 to 4 inches with local higher amounts of 6 inches. I cannot pronounce the states. I'm not even going to try. Other places are 1 to 2 inches expected, and we will pull that up via graphic here momentarily. Our tropical storm warnings are in blue here along the southern and southwestern portions of mainland Mexico. It is going to move parallel to the coastline and then with a beeline basically for the southern part of the Baja Peninsula. And if you notice, it is a tropical depression by the time it gets there, post-tropical by Sunday 12 p.m., but it's still moving north. And the residual moisture from that is what is on the WPC forecast for days 4, 5, and 6. So a double shot of tropical moisture for the southwestern U.S. Our key messages. Tropical storm conditions are expected along portions of the coast of southwestern Mexico through late Friday. Interest in the southern Baja Peninsula should monitor the progress of this system. And then the heavy rainfall associated here for the coastal sections of southwestern Mexico could result in flash flooding, particularly in areas of higher terrain. And if we look at our rainfall forecast, potentially isolated 6 inches plus in this area located here in the yellow, which are representative of 4 to 6 inches, and then with our isolated amounts being higher than that. 2 to 4 in our dark green area with isolated, totals that could exceed that. And then our light green, we have 1 to 2 inches with an area here of an isolated maybe 2+ inches in that area there, to where you could almost extend this bright green up just a little further. So the potential for some significant flash flooding out there over the open waters. Our forecaster's discussion. I'm not going to read the first paragraph. It is kind of pointless there. That is not pointless, but for us, that is its verification and clarification on why they did what they did as far as upgrading it to Raymond at the intermediate, and then subsequent reason for its intensity going forward. The third paragraph, though, is the one of most interest to me and would be the ones for its intensity. Strong easterly shear is expected to displace most of the convection over the western semicircle over the next few days. Although the system will remain over very warm sea surface temperatures, near 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, and within a preferable upper level wind environment. Thus, some strengthening is forecast in the short term. In about a day or so, drier air and a more stable environment will cause the system to start weakening as it approaches Baja California. Global models simulated IR imagery shows the system struggling to produce organized convection by day 3, with the system becoming post-tropical and ultimately dissipating by day 4. And as you can see here, maybe getting it up to around 50 miles an hour. It has a very limited window of opportunity for intensification. Our most likely arrival time of tropical storm force winds are here, as it runs parallel with the coast for our friends out here onto the southwestern portions of Mexico. So through the overnight hours, and then by the time that we get through the majority of Friday, we should definitely be getting a lot better conditions out here in the currently warned area. Our tropical storm force wind speed probabilities, as you can see, they're not extraordinarily high, but they are high enough to trigger a tropical storm warning. So you get into that 30-40% range, and you're definitely going to see it. And although they have 25%, but not all of these places are noted there. This isn't all of the locations along southwestern Mexico. So just as a precaution, the government of Mexico has issued a warning for those folks, and I would certainly do the exact same thing. Our spaghetti plots, this is out over the next 7 days. As you can see, Raymond is forecast to follow pretty much right in Priscilla's steps. We've got a lot of clustering, although we don't have a lot of intensity out here south of the Isthmus and the Gulf of Tehuantepec into the Eastern Caribbean. If we compare that with the GEFS, it also comes with pretty much an identical solution, maybe a little bit of a weak low pressure out here well south of Hawaii. And if we compare that with the Euro AI, again, a little bit of a, some chicken scratch over here south of the Gulf of Tehuantepec, offshore of Guatemala. And it's possible. It's that time of year. Raymond following suit again with Priscilla. Nothing out there south of Hawaii for that one. If we compare all that with the Google DeepMind, as we could see here, it is forecast to follow suit. If we run it forward for the Eastern Pacific, this is out 7 days. Not a lot. So hopefully we'll do good there. Now, jumping out to the Western Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Nakri, and then we have Typhoon Hailong. Tropical Storm 29W here, Nakri, did enter the Philippine area of responsibility, was given a name by the Philippines. There is, if y'all think I struggle with the Spanish names, you want to try that one. I looked at that and I was like, no, absolutely not. We're not even going to try to butcher any of that. So if we look at Hailong, Hailong is still a typhoon, 70 knots, forecast to move out here into the open waters and then potentially becoming post-tropical in about 24 hours. No threat to land. Though there are some video from these folks right here got absolutely stomped by Hailong. It's an island of about 8,000 people, and they did. I've seen some of the video out of there. I believe it's that little island right there. They got absolutely stomped by Hailong. Stomped. I mean, big time winds. You hear that howl. And it was bad. It was bad. They certainly had well above minimal hurricane strength winds. And then with Nakri, we have this coming up. Kadena Air Force Base had issued a signal force wind, maybe potential on this. I don't see it now that this has kind of shifted back. Although, for the folks that I was just mentioning that just got stomped by Hai Long, that island is right there, and they're about ready to get hit again, potentially. So, our hearts go out to these folks here, along the southern edge of Tokyo and especially across these islands. Before I do sign off here tonight, there is something else that I do need to mention. There is currently, from all of the tropical cyclones that we've seen make landfall in this region this year, there is currently the worst flooding ongoing in over 30 years in Vietnam. A dam had failed, and some of the pictures that I have seen coming out of Vietnam remind me of some of the pictures that I saw with Katrina. So, folks, if you pray, those folks need it. They need it. I mean to tell you, there are so many people that are going to be homeless, so many people that are missing, so many fatalities. It is unbelievably sad for those folks there in Vietnam. I I'm serious. Some of the flooding reminds me of what I saw with what I saw after Katrina, with just the amount of water just everywhere. Doesn't matter, just everywhere. And you figure a dam failed, so it sounds very similar to a levee failure, and it's really bad, folks. So please, these folks, keep them in your prayers, keep them in your hearts. All right, everybody. That's about all I've got here for tonight. I am going to go ahead and sign off here. We will be back live tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central here on Facebook and YouTube. For everybody that is in the threatened areas, please stay safe. Follow all directives issued to you by your local officials and follow your official sources. For the folks out there in the islands, we have a link right here tied to our Facebook page with our International Meteorology Database. You click on North America, and there you go. So make sure you follow your official sources, folks, and stay safe. So, all right, everybody. We'll talk to you again tomorrow night.